So today I wanted to explore the difference between depression and the freeze response and why it matters. So if you've ever felt like you know what you want to do in life, but you feel like somebody has a remote control on your body that keeps you from feeling connected to yourself and to everything around you as well. In fact, you might have even been diagnosed with depression, and you may have it, you may not, I don't know. However, what if what you're experiencing is actually something deeper, something your nervous system is choosing for you in an effort to keep you safe? That's exactly what we call the freeze trauma response. So today I want to share with you why understanding the freeze trauma response is so important if you're feeling stuck in what looks like depression. So without further ado, let's dive in.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner and the founder of the School of Transformation, which is where I meet live on Zoom every week, and I do the inner work with survivors from all over the world of childhood trauma together. Here on my YouTube channel, we talk about what healing is about, what it looks like, the symptoms of unhealed trauma. But in the School of Transformation, we do the inner healing together. So if you're ready to take the next step, make sure you join me weekly on Zoom.
Okay, so let's understand the freeze response. Humor me for a second and imagine you're an antelope being chased by a lion. The antelope knows instinctively that there's no way it can fight against the lion. So that's the first go-to trauma response that your nervous system would do, would be to fight. Well, it can't, so now it moves to flee. The antelope runs, right? It's fleeing. But let's say the lion catches up to it. What happens next is the antelope will freeze. So let's understand why the freeze trauma response, even for that antelope, is such a brilliant strategy. The freeze trauma response is also called tonic immobility. And what happens is it floods the antelope's system with natural painkillers, endorphins, and opioids that numb physical and emotional pain, so that if the nervous system can't keep you alive, your nervous system is going to do everything in its power to make sure that you don't suffer as much as possible. But that's not the only reason the body goes into the freeze response. It's also because it might trick the predator into thinking that the antelope is dead and it goes to get its family, and then the antelope can escape. Another reason might be because it conserves energy. It's almost like the body powers down to conserve that energy so that if there's a chance to escape, you can use that energy and move up into fleeing. Well, that same primitive mechanism that exists in the nervous system of animals exists in us as well. Maybe we weren't trying to outrun animals, but if you had a childhood where you did not feel safe, where being you was dangerous, where walking daily in your family environment felt like you were walking through an emotional minefield, that causes our nervous system to register what's happening in your house as threat, and it goes to the same trauma responses. The first would be to fight, but the nervous system's like, you're a child, you won't win. Let's move down to flee. You can't run away because you can't take care of yourself. So then it shifts into freeze, especially because as children, we felt so helpless in regards to our situation. And so our body shut down to protect us. And here's the thing, when we're stuck in freeze, we get so frustrated, we tend to view it as weakness. When in reality, when we understand what our nervous system is doing, we realize that we're shutting down and powering down because of the intelligence that our nervous system had when we were too small to navigate such difficult situations. And here's where it can get confusing to family, friends, and even some therapists. When we're in the freeze trauma response, we are shut down, we are disconnected, we feel numb, dissociated even. And it can look like clinical depression. For example, maybe you can't get out of bed. You feel emotionally flat or dissociated. You might feel heavy, hopeless, or zoned out. You've stopped taking care of yourself. You might be isolating from other people. You might even feel like you're watching your life as if it's a movie. You're the main character, but you're watching it from the outside. So it may look like depression, but here's the key difference. Depression is often treated as a mental health disorder, something quote unquote wrong with your mind. But freeze is a nervous system state. It's a biological reaction of your body trying to keep you safe. And that difference means more than you think. If you think that you're stuck because you're lazy or you have depression or you're unmotivated, you might try to whip your body into shape and force yourself and push and shove your body to do what it's registering in your nervous system and in your subconscious mind as threat. And when we do that, when we push past our body's capacity, we wind up getting extremely dysregulated or having like emotional whiplash, where the body will just give you more stress hormones that cause you to feel more stuck and more unmotivated. In other words, we are no match for our autonomic nervous system. It's kind of like, imagine a frozen flower that you want to open so that it can bloom. And so it's frozen and you're trying by force to open its petals. It's not going to work. You're going to create more of a disaster than anything else. Well, it's the same thing with our nervous system. Our nervous system doesn't heal and come out of freeze through force and through willpower. It comes out through safety. And that's why understanding that maybe we're in a freeze trauma response and learning how to work with our nervous system instead of against it is so, so helpful. Now, as somebody that formerly tried to force their body into submission, only to feel myself flinging myself against a brick wall, coming back down and doing it over and over and over again until finally I was like, okay, all right, this is not working. The somatic education was what helped me to understand why I needed to do it differently. Because until I understood it, I was like, no, I can do this. I believed in myself. But no amount of believing in myself was going to help because I was working against my nervous system. I was trying to strong arm it. So that's why I provide as much information as possible as far as somatic education as well. Because the why we need to learn how to be gentle with our nervous system, why we need to be willing to do things differently is what's going to take us out of the habitual healing loop of trying something, forcing our body only to be back at square one, finding something else, forcing our body only to be back at square one over and over again. And we all know what Einstein said about insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So we have to be willing to work differently with our nervous system. So let's understand the why. What's happening in our brain and body that makes us have to work differently? When we're in a freeze trauma state, our dorsal vagal nerve, that's the part of the vagus nerve that's responsible for shutting the body down, literally takes over. And so it lowers your heart rate, it numbs sensation, and it basically prepares for a kind of emotional hibernation. And that's not a flaw, it's biology. Your brainstem is basically prioritizing survival over connection, joy, or productivity. And so when somebody's in this trauma response, telling them to get over it or telling them to snap out of it is equivalent of telling a hibernating bear to wake up. The bear is not being lazy, it's in survival. And it's the same thing with somebody that's in the freeze state. It's not because they don't want to do things. Their nervous system is in a gear that won't allow them to, because everything they want to do is registered as threat. And so when we can understand this, we can work to heal by creating safety in the body. And the way we do that is not by doing more. It's not by shoving and pushing ourselves. It's by teaching the body that it is safe now in micro moments, glimmers of safety, creating them, accumulating them in the body so that the body doesn't feel forced to come back online, but actually chooses to do so because enough safety has been created. And there's so much resistance to doing it this way. I know with myself, I wanted to break out of freeze fast. And that's terrifying to the body. Going from frozen to feeling, it's too much of a big jump. So that's one challenge you might notice in yourself. And then the other challenge was the micro moments and glimmers of safety. My brain would be like, oh, that's so tiny. What's that going to do? And when I would have that thought, I wouldn't do the things that would help me to accumulate more safety. So I'm sharing this with you so you can watch for what your survival brain and your protective self try to do to keep you from even taking these tiny little steps towards healing. And you might be like, why would my survival brain stop me if I want to heal? Well, remember, it's been programmed because of the trauma. It's been programmed to think things that are really safe aren't safe. And so imagine, on a body level that touching a stove is going to hurt, it's going to burn. But you're now going to teach your body that it's not going to hurt, right? So you bring your hand, because the body needs to learn through felt experience on a body level. And you're like going to touch the stove. What do you think your body's going to be doing? It's going to be resisting you the whole way. Not because it's your enemy, but because it's not convinced yet that touching the stove is safe, right? That's just an example. Obviously, in that case, touching the stove is not safe, so do not do that. But for anyone that's been through trauma, you've learned being you is not safe. You've learned having boundaries is not safe. You've learned it's not safe to love yourself and take care of yourself. It's not safe to take up space. And the same resistance that your body does towards touching a stove, it does towards these healthy behaviors as well. That's why we need to work gently with our nervous system. And so the truth is, we cannot think our way out of freeze. We have to feel our way out slowly, gently, and at our body's pace. And the very first tiny micro step we can take is beginning to notice what's happening in our body. Not even going to the trauma stories, but just noticing our body is actually the beginning of unthawing. And so I created an exercise for you to begin gently working with your nervous system. Do not do this exercise if you're driving in your car, if you're operating machinery, or doing anything that requires your attention. Make sure you can be uninterrupted for the next 3 to 5 minutes. So if you're feeling stuck, frozen, or disconnected in your life, this is for you. First, find a quiet place where you can sit or lie down comfortably. Let your body settle. Feel the support beneath you, the chair underneath you, on the back of your legs. If your back is being supported by the chair or the bed. See if you can let yourself be held by the surface. And now, without needing to change anything, just notice your breath. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it even? There's no right or wrong. Simply notice. And begin to bring gentle awareness to your feet. Maybe wiggle your toes just a little. Sense the contact your feet make with the ground or bed. And if it feels okay, you can gently press your toes or your heels down and notice the slight activation in your legs. Notice the muscles tensing briefly and then release. And now, very slowly, at a snail's pace, begin glancing around the room. This is not about stretching. Just gently turn your head in one direction as your eyes take in all the different things in your space. As you slowly move your head to the other side as well. Noticing the colors, the decorations. If there's a window that you can look out. And then slowly look behind you, looking over your right shoulder, noticing that there's no one behind you. Slowly looking over your left shoulder and seeing how far the wall is behind you. and again, noticing that there's no immediate threat. In somatic experiencing, we call this orienting. We're not telling our nervous system we're safe. We're showing our nervous system that there's no current present threat. And so we're letting our body know that we're safe in this moment. So pause and notice how your body feels. Are there tingles, shifts, numbness, curiosity? Let your body know that whatever is here is welcome. As we learn to orient, what we start to notice is the discrepancy between the words "I'm safe" and when your body actually feels it. So you may have noticed as you did this exercise, suddenly your body gave a nice breath, a sigh, or maybe you just felt more heavy and in your body. When that happens, your mind and your body are in agreement. This is what we have to help our body to notice, to taste the safety that the mind easily identifies. And so, if you feel ready, place one hand over your heart and one on your belly. And just feel the warmth of your hand touching your body. Feel your own presence. You're right here with yourself. You may want to give your body that message, like, can you feel me right here with you? See if you can notice if your body responds. Again, it's all the little noticing that we do that helps us to rewire our nervous system to realize that we're safe. If we don't slow it down and give our body this feedback, we can be safe, we can be in a beautiful place around beautiful people, but the body won't notice. So scanning your body, and if you notice a part of you that still feels frozen, imagine that part wrapped in a blanket, not rushed, not judged, not to force it to feel differently, but rather to allow it to be here, yet feel supported by you. In fact, you might gently say to it, it's okay that there are parts that are still frozen. You don't have to thaw all at once. I just want you to know that adult me is here. And I'm learning how to support you. And we're in this together. See if you can notice a response from your body. There's no right or wrong. And if nothing happens, that's okay too. The freeze response takes time. And even the intention to connect is movement. So when you're ready, start to wiggle your fingers and your toes again. Take a nice gentle in-breath in through your nose, exhaling out of your mouth, making your exhale longer than your inhale. And now maybe doing a physiological sigh, where you take a nice inhale and then a double inhale. Right when your breath is almost full, you inhale again, and then letting out a sigh as you exhale. And if that feels right, you can do that again. But let that sigh signal to your system that we're coming back. And so slowly open your eyes, look around the space that you're in. Let your body track the safety of this moment. If it feels right to stretch your arms, to roll your shoulders, or stretch your neck, doing whatever feels comfortable for you. And remember, even the tiniest shift is enough. Practice this regularly to build safety in your body. And if you're wanting to do this work together with myself live weekly, remember to check out the School of Transformation, because this is what we do together. And oftentimes the co-regulation of the group is so helpful as you're beginning to learn how to come back home into your body.